Everyone in Football Manager tells you to go with high press, go aggressive and suffocate teams. But what if I told you that's actually holding you back? This tactic took a newly promoted team to third in the Liga, beating teams with way better players without pressing like crazy. And let me show you how this tactic actually works. As I said, this tactic took me to third in the Liga, finishing with 80 points, just behind Barcelona and Real Madrid, which is insane. We finished above Atletico Madrid, Seville, Bilbao, Real Sociedad. We also scored 87 goals and conceded 46. For a newly promoted team, it's ridiculously good numbers. But apart from that, and we'll look at the data hub, we can just see how good this tactic actually has worked this season. In Team Analytics, we're one of the best teams in the league when it comes to attacking and how efficient we are in terms of also scoring. We have goals per game, we're sitting on 2.3, and shots per game, we're sitting on 11.3. And basically in every single stat, we're performing way better than average. The reason we went for a 4-2-2 instead of a normal, let's say 4-3-3, 4-1-4-1, or even a normal 4-2-3-1. It's actually because when we're playing with a 4-2-2, we're way more narrow on the pitch and more compact when we're playing in position, out of position, keeping very tight against our opponents. And also when we are on our rest attacks, which is when we're playing out of position, trying to defend the ball, we're trying to win the bag very quickly, trying to get for those quick transitions, we can play on the counter attacks for our 4 attacking players, trying to break the opponent's defense down way quicker than usual. And I will now show you guys how we actually implemented this tactic in games and how it actually works, so we can get a better understanding of it than just by downloading this tactic and use it straight away. This way can also help you make tactics on your own or even tweak this tactic so it fits your team better. In this game we played against Villarreal where we won 4-0, but you can already see on the screen how we're playing when we're in position. We got our 2 defenders and we got our fullbacks being high on the pitch, and they can also go up and be our wingers since we don't have wingers in our tactic. We can still have our 2 defensive midfielders right here, and we have our wingback here with Kebabashvili, which I call him. We can see how we have our 2 strikers up here and our attacking midfielders. We're actually asking our attacking midfielders to stay wide on the pitch so they don't run into our strikers when they're making runs, and we also have move into channels for attacking midfielders. You see how it actually works with our wingback coming up here. We have 4 players already in the box and 2 sitting just right outside the box. We're very dangerous when we're going forward and we're trying to attack. We can just see on this clip, we can just see how wide our fullbacks actually is when we're having the ball, which I told you guys before. We can just see how from the build-up phase when we are here, how much space our opponents actually leave when they're playing with 1 or 2 defensive midfielders when they're playing out of position. Since we have 2 attacking midfielders, we can clearly see they're playing with a 4-1-4-1 when they're out of position. In this quick transition we're having when we're playing with a very high tempo, we can see our defensive midfielders playing out from the back. So attacking midfielder, we already have 3 attacking options here, very deadly on the counter attacks. We have Nieto being here, we have our wingbacks being in support, and Stamnich which takes a shot. And just look at how high we are on the pitch, since we're trying to keep it very compact in the middle with the mid block. Here we can see when we're playing out of position, Villarreal has a free kick in their half. You can just see how high our defensive line is and how compact our midfield is, where we are forcing them to play through the middle here because they found space. Just see how wide they need to play before they can break us down. The reason we don't play with the wingers in this formation is that I found out when we're playing with wingers to stay wide on the pitch to cover up the opponent's right back or left back when they're forced to go up the pitch when they're playing with wingbacks or fullbacks. And this way we kind of leave open spaces in midfield which we cannot cover since we don't got enough players in there. But when we're having our central midfielders out of position to press the opponents, we can see how fast we're actually closing them down, and then we can win the ball back and get a very quick counter attack. We can just see here how quickly it goes from position when we're out of position to in position, and easily get a easy shot off against the goalkeeper. Again, here we can see how the build-up phase is actually going with this team. We have our center backs playing out to our wing backs, and already here we have 3 or 4 attacking players ready to receive the ball. Moving to channels right there, we can see our attacker just go there, gets a shot off and score an easy goal. And again, the same here, playing out from the back, get it out to our fullbacks, get up to our attacking midfield, which is staying on wide so we can get the spaces, get an easy shut off their goalkeeper again. And here we go again. We can see how they're forced to play it wide, since just look at how compact that midfield is. If these 2 central attacking midfielders decides to go up in this space, they're getting covered by 2 defensive midfielders. But already in this phase, when they're building up from the back, we have our 2 central midfielders to cover them and mark them. They just can't play them, which force them, you can see here, force them to play wide, and then we can have our left back and our left central midfielders to go out there and press them. Again, we have 3 players pressing wide. They're just playing around because they cannot find an opening. Found an opening, good attack they had right there. But good stop from our goalkeeper. Here they are again. They're forced to play wide since they have a counter attack. Win the ball quickly with our right back having tackle harder on. Played up to our attacking midfielder and he takes a terrible shot. But normally that would go in. In this game we were playing against Barcelona, and just to show you guys it always isn't bread and butter with this tactic. There's always some issue, and this is just your proof to you guys there is some consequences, as I said before. We're forcing Barcelona again to play wide out to Jules Koundé. You can see how compact we are midfield with a high line. But they can just pass it to Lewandowski, he can get an easy shot off target and nearly scores a goal. So remember to have in mind, you need to have quick center backs if you at least want to have this tactic to work insanely good. I think it's also very important to mention, I also said this in the tactical breakdown later on in the video, when you're playing against bigger teams, they normally play with inside wingbacks or fullbacks and this kind of stuff, instead of having their fullbacks or wingbacks to go further up the pitch and help support their winger. When they actually don't do this, we can actually trap them inside the pitch. We can see here Alejandro Balde, he's playing as an inside wingback or playmaking wingback. I don't know what that role is actually called specific. But we can see here he received the ball. We have basically 4 players ready to press him. He plays the back. We forced him to play wide again. And we just see how they're passing it back and forth because they cannot find a space in our backline to actually play it through since we're so compact. We can just see if we didn't have our 2 attacking midfield to stay wide on the wings, there was open spaces for Pedri, Robert Lewandowski, Gavi, and Lamine Yamal, and even Frankie de Jong to have to find passing options to receive the ball, lay up a pass, or even maybe a shot to get a goal. But since we're being so compact in the midfield, they just really can't seem to find that pass unless they're playing it through of our defense. So remember to have that in mind. You could also put it on mid block or high press, but it wouldn't work as good when you're playing like this. We win the ball since we're pressing high, force them to play very narrow on the pitch. We can get an easy shot on target here, and we were so close to score against Barcelona. Here you can see we win the ball back without pressing. Boom, we are playing out from the back, very correct transitions, playing with a very high tempo. Voice crack, sorry. Just look at how fast it's actually going when we're playing it here. To our left back, defensive midfielder Pablo Martinez. Just take a look at that goal, mate. Absolutely insane from Pablo Martinez. Just to give you guys a better aspect on how we are playing with this tactic in the 2D classic version. We can see how much space we're leaving in this area of the pitch when we're playing with our attacking midfielders. And we see here how they actually are when we're having them to stay wide on the pitch. We can see these runs they can make, and just like that, we're just playing around from the back out to a right back, up to attacking midfielder. Make a passing switch, just running down to the wing, get a cross in. It wasn't really good, but still, when playing out of position, just look at how high our line actually is and how much we're just pressing Barcelona. No matter where they're on the pitch, we easily have 3 or 4 players. See how the switcher play, we still have 3 or 4 players to just press them, their asses out. But yeah, they still force to score since it is Barcelona and my defense is not that good. And here is a tactic that makes magic on the pitch, guys. We're playing with 2 ball-playing central defenders and also our goalkeeper playing a ball-playing goalkeeper, so we can pass it around between the defenders. We are playing with wingbacks, as I said before, having them to stay wide on the pitch and crossing it from the byline. Makes it so much better since we have 4 attacking players who can just easily pass the ball into the box so we can get an easy goal out that way. Then we also have 2 defensive midfielders, very meta, and having them, one of them being a deep line playmaker. The deep line playmaker is going down the pitch and receiving the ball for our ball playing defenders. Just by this progress down here, when we build our phase, it makes it so much easier to get the ball from defense to attack. And by playing with 4 attacking players being so close to each other, this way we can easily beat the opponents way more often than just playing with wingers. And having our attacking midfielders to stay wider, they will often be around this area of the pitch. Up front, I'm just having center forward and a poacher on. The reason I'm playing with a poacher is because he plays on the last line. You can also have a target forward on. I mean, basically just have whatever striker roles you're normally using. But I wouldn't recommend having the deep line forward role or the false 9, as you don't want to have our players to move back in the field and drop off. And when we're out of position, it's basically just the same formation as before. The only thing we change is that our attacking midfielders drops down to be central midfielders and having them on wide covering central midfielder. We can see here on the tactical screen on this little video we have here, we can see how they're staying in midfield when we're out of position, so we can keep it very compact. But we can see as soon as the ball is playing wide to the fullbacks, wingers, he goes out to attack, and we will have 2 or 3 players attacking on the wings, and this way you can win the ball back easily. We don't want to have our backline to be on pressing roles, and neither for our defensive midfielders. Just want to have them very compact and follow their role. You could put on sweeper keeper for goalkeeper if you want to, but the reason I haven't done that is just because Frank Gonzalez, he's only 22 years old in this save so far, and he doesn't really have good goalkeeping attributes for rushing out and reflexes and one-on-ones and all that. So I'm quite curious to actually play him as a sweeper keeper, but you can feel free to do so. For the in-position team instructions, we're just having the passing directness on standard. We actually don't want to have it on shorter, because when you're having it on shorter, we don't get those quick transitions and lob balls to our attacking players. And when we're in our tempo, we want to have it on much higher. This way we can get those quick transitions from defense to attack, and that's also why we have attacking transition on counter attack. In the build-up phase, I'm really just trying to focus on playing it outside from the back, so that's why goal kicks is being on short, and we have our goalkeeper distribution just to be on center backs. In our progression, we want to have pass into space. I have mentioned this so many times, and especially when we have our attacking midfielders being that ball wide on the pitch, leaving those gaps behind the opponent's backline. We just pass the ball in that way and find pockets of spaces where we can be more benefit and crucial on the pitch for our players. In the final third, we just want to discourage shots from distance, and we just want to have crossing style to be on low crosses. If you have tall strikers or tall attacking players, just leave it on balance. And also when we're on the final third, we can see how our 4 attacking players is very compact. They're just sitting right between each other, and when we're getting the ball passed into the left wing and right wing, you can see how here this is actually how we're looking when we're in the box, as I just showed in the highlights. We always have 4 attacking players being just right inside the box, and the 2 defensive midfielders being right outside the box. And this way we're still ready for counterattacks if it happens to be so. And then when we are out of possession, we just want to have our mid block, and we want to have it on much higher with step up more. We can see how compact it actually is between our defenders. We can see how compact here it is between our defenders and our midfield, so we close these gaps down and force them to play inside the pitch instead of being wide. In some cases, when you're playing against better teams, especially away from home, when I was playing against Real Madrid or Barcelona, I just had it on higher, and the defensive line behavior just being unbalanced. And then we just want to have the trigger press to be on just more often, since we're playing with a much higher line and the mid block, and how our formation both in possession and out of possession actually is. We don't really need to press that much often. When you're winning the game in the last, let's say 20 or 30 minutes, or you're leading like 3-0 halftime, you just want to go for the win. You want to change from mentality should be very defensive or just defensive. Still want to keep the same for formations, in possession, out of possession, but in the team instructions, you want to have your defensive line on much lower. Still want to press the same and have the defensive position being on counter attack, counter press, sorry. This way we can still be very deep on the pitch when we're defending, but as soon as we receive the ball, we can play these quick transitions, which our formation and tactic is pretty much built around. Yes, my people, that's it for this video. If you found it helpful, then don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.